everybody. Another beautiful day on the ranch. I'm out here with my trencher again. Just wanted to walk through a couple of steps. I'm going to show you how I tested these to make sure that it was actually the packing in the cylinders and not something wrong with the valve or anything else. I'm going to show you how I hooked this little tester up, and I'm going to actually show you what some of the pressures do from this little pump as we do some different manipulations on the cylinders. Alright, so all I did here was I loosened the pressure line coming from the gear pump. I inserted this T, and on this T I have this pump, or I'm sorry, this gauge. It's a 0 to 5,000 psi gauge connected. So what that's going to test whenever I get this started up and run through this some of these manipulations with my valves, you're actually going to see what the pressure is doing. So let's get at it. Alright, so I got the trencher started up. The motor's running just above an idle. Main thing to remember about this hydraulic system is it's a fixed displacement system, which means as long as that motor is spinning at a constant rate, it's going to put out a constant flow rate. In this case, it's max of 3 gallons per minute. You know, I'm running half throttle, so probably somewhere around 2. I'm going to show you what happens on this gauge whenever I manipulate these valves. Right now, that fluid is coming out of the pump, going through this manifold block. This is what's called an open center manifold block. So when the controls are at rest, in other words, you're not pushing or pulling on them, the fluid goes straight across the center, right back to the tank. So let's see what happens right now. You can see we're sitting pretty close to 0. There's probably a little bit of pressure in there, but because of the restriction of this hose versus the manifold block, it's just shooting straight across that block. But let's see what happens. Hopefully this thing doesn't jump around too bad when I start manipulating. But I'm going to raise this up. Now that's raising the main boom, and you can see it shoots up until I get to the end of the travel, and you can see I've jumped up to 2,000 RPMs. Now I'm shooting all that oil across the pressure relief valve back into the tank, and you can see it really puts a strain on that motor. So there we go, that's deadheading that cylinder. I go to let it down. I don't get much resistance until I'm back on the ground. Whenever I start pushing on the ground, you should see a little bit of pressure. Just a minute. Now once it stops, all that fluid goes back across that center, open center, back to the tank. So here, as we're lifting it again, you'll see a little bit of pressure. Now I'm going to extend the dipper arm, which, if you remember, that's one of them that I was having a problem with. So here you'll see a little bit of pressure as it just, from the weight of the dipper arm, as it goes all the way out. Now when it gets to the end of the travel, you should see this gauge jump up to 2K. And you'll see that it in fact does not jump up to 2K. I'm only getting about 500K. Now if I curl it, or I pull it all the way in, let's see what happens then. That's all the way in. Now coming all the way in, it will almost deadhead, but we're still not quite there. So it'll stay in, but whenever I go out, again, about 200 psi to lift it, and now you can see that it just falls right back down. So again, now with the bucket, same deal. All the way uncurl, I hit the end. I'm only getting right around 100 psi fully curled. That should be shooting up to 2,000 RPM. Now if I go full curl on the bucket, it goes all the way to deadhead. So let me shut this thing off and we'll talk some more. Okay, so I wanted to go over one of the things about hydraulics, and that's that you always got more pressure or more force when you're pushing than when you're retracting a cylinder. And here's why. I've got the pistons here in two separate pistons. This would be the piston end when you're extending. This will be the rod end when you're retracting. So obviously I got them flipped upside down, but when you extend a cylinder, you're going to push on the bottom, which is the full 3-inch diameter. When you're pushing or you're pulling it back in to retract, you see you don't have near as much surface area. This end of the cylinder or this end of the ram rod is outside of the cylinder, so the oil that's in this area is not acting on that area. So just to do a couple of quick calculations, which I've already done, I think they're right. Here, to find the area of a circle, which is what we're dealing with here, you take pi times the radius, which is half of the diameter, squared. So to find the area of the total piston, take pi times 1.5 squared, and that comes out to be roughly 7.1 square inches. So to find the force that's acting on that, and ultimately acting on the end of this rod, multiply your pressure, which is 2,000, times the surface area that it's acting on. So in this case, it's roughly 14,000 pounds and some change. I left the change off, but that's okay. So to find the area that's acting on the cylinder or on the piston when you're retracting, you have to find the total area, you take the area of the total area of the piston and subtract out the area of the rod. So in this case, find the area of that rod, you're going to multiply pi, do pi r squared, the radius for the rod is 5/8 of an inch. So calculate that all out and you get about 1.25 inches squared. So 1.23 square inches, subtract that from 7.1 and you end up with 5.87. So what that means is in retract, that fluid is only acting on 5.8 square inches versus 7.1 square inches. Do the formula, and in retract, you are in fact only getting about 11,740 pounds on retract, which is why these hydraulic cylinders always have more force or can lift more when you're pushing versus when you're pulling. So next we'll take a look at what's wrong with my piston, and we'll go from there. All right, so what we have here is a very crude mock-up of the hydraulic system. And what we have on this end here, we have our tank, then we go through our gear pump. I just teed off and went to that little gauge, then into the manifold block, and we've got two hoses. One goes to the top, one goes to the bottom of the cylinder. What happens when you pull this lever to extend the cylinder, pumps hot oil into the back side of this, which pushes on the cylinder, which makes everything move up. When you push to retract, you're going to put oil on this side, which pushes it down. And the problem I'm having again are the little rings that go right across here. Those are bad. So when they're bad, it allows oil to go from this side of that piston over to this side of that piston, and that's really not what you want. So we'll get those swapped out. We'll see how it works after that, and I'll run you through and show you all the gauges and all again once I get that finished. So there you go. Have a good one.